Good evening and welcome to Black Ibis Social Club, Season 3, Episode 7. I'm your host, Alexandra Constantine, and we have Fisto with us. I think starting today, we're going to be an ASMR podcast where I'm just going to talk real slow into the microphone. No, I'm just joking, guys. What's up, man? We'll do a cozy stream, right?
Absolutely, yes. The coziest stream to ever cozy the
We'll do
cozy.
like the little microphone thing they do at the
Hey,
whatever it
hey
is.
guys. Hey, how you doing? How you doing?
Hey,
How you doing?
welcome. I brewed
How you
myself
doing?
yeah, it's just some serial killer stream. Yeah.
Our final form. Our final form. That's what it
Yeah.
really is.
So yesterday I went and got an MRI and
Yeah, how'd that go?
I knew that my spine was really messed up, but it was really messed up.
It
It
was like
was
really messed up. There's like
yeah.
messed up and then there's confirmed messed up.
Yeah, I have about 7 slip discs and a bunch of collapsed vertebrae. What is that rubbing? Are you rubbing? What are you rubbing?
Sorry. I'm gonna take a picture of my setup. You know how I've been having the
Okay.
computer problems. I'm slowly stacking books in order to move the microphone closer to my mouth. This is the ghettoest
That's
shit
funny.
you have ever seen in your life. It's fucking
Please like, share,
spectacular.
subscribe so we can actually afford microphones and stuff instead of recording on Xbox controllers.
Yeah,
Um,
literally Xbox original controller, original microphone. This
yeah,
is
the
like Halo 2
Halo 2
recording quality
controller.
right
Yeah.
now. Halo 2 recording quality.
Um, so my MRI was not good. And next week I have to go up to Charleston to visit a neurologist and talk about getting surgery. And if I get a surgery, it's going to go through the anterior portion of my neck, and they're going to fuse a few vertebrae in my cervical spine because I really can't feel my right hand that much, which is pretty bad. So I guess I'm going to become a disabled veteran. Then I get a license plate or something. But what that means is that we're going to have to take like 1 or 2 week break because I won't be able to talk for like a week or two, which might be not fun. But maybe I'll just make it up by writing like 30 essays in 1 week and some kind of schizo high output because I'll be on Valium or something. So we'll see. We'll see. I'll let you guys know. But we're going to go into our main topic in a bit, but I kind of wanted to go over some other stuff first. If you
Sounds good.
guys,
Sounds good.
if you guys notice the picture I chose today, you got two guys sword fighting. I don't know if you guys recognize who they are. That's actually a film still from the 1935 movie version of Captain Blood, right? And on
Oh
the
my.
left, on the left, you've got Errol Flynn, and on the right, you have Basil Rathbone, right? And we all know Errol Flynn. Basil Rathbone, he's the one that I'm actually interested in. And the reason I chose this picture, and because it's cool because it's two pirates fighting to the death, um, is because I've been thinking about Basil Rathbone. And the reason is because I I buy a lot of books. Okay, I'm a highly addicted book buyer, especially on Kindle. I'm a Kindle buyer, and I like coming home both on Kindle and hardcover, soft cover. I just buy books constantly. Like I'm addicted to Amazon book buying or book talk and all. I just do all that stuff. And sometimes I just like show up home from work and there's like an Amazon envelope sitting outside my door, and it's just like random books I ordered. I'm like, oh, I don't remember even ordering these, but cool. I'll add it to my pile of books I'm reading. And one thing I do is I pre-order books, and I'll pre-order them like 2 year ahead of time. And this week on my Kindle, a book popped up, and I was like, "Oh, yes!" I'm excited. I've been waiting for this one for 2 years. I forgot I bought it like 2 years ago, and the book it's called The Final Problem, a novel. by Arturo Perez Reverte. And it made me I started reading it, and it's really good. But it made me think about, so I will admit something. You guys might think I'm some kind of heavy literary snob, and because I trashed fantasy, was it like 2 weeks ago that I trashed fantasy, and I said fantasy's boring and blah blah blah, and genre fiction sucks and all this. No, it's not true. I'm not a literary snob at all. I've actually read almost all the fantasy books people keep on sharing, saying how great they are, and I've read, like, if there's a fantasy or sci-fi novel out there, I've probably read it, so I'm pretty well read on it. I prefer literary fiction to it, but I do have one. What is it? One what's the word for it? If I have like one where I slink into like genre fiction, my favorite genre is really detective fiction. I love detective novels. I love mysteries, and I love a lot of detective novels that are even considered slop. And like, for example, I really enjoy the kind of contemporary author. Her name is Tana French, and she writes about Irish policemen in Ireland and contemporary Ireland. I really like her books. It's called the Double Murder Squad. She has like 10 books out, and they're really good. Um, and I really like romantic adventure books from what is it? From like the early 20th century. And who I really, really like from the, yeah, it's my inner noir monologue. And out of the contemporary writers who tends to write romantic adventure, that I highly recommend all you guys that are writing fiction and fantasy and that kind of stuff, I highly recommend you read, is the Spanish author named Arturo Perez Reverte. And his most famous novel that you guys might know is The Club Dumas, which was made into a really crappy movie called The Ninth Gate. Have you ever seen The Ninth Gate, Visto?
I have not. No.
It's with Johnny Depp, and it's actually a Roman Polanski movie. And it's not a very good movie at all. I kind of liked it when I was younger, but I rewatched it with my wife a few years ago, and I was like, "Oh, this movie's awful." But The Club Dumas is actually a really good book. It's about like an occult investigator, and he's kind of like searching for missing chapters from the Three Musketeers and the Count of Monte Cristo, and it's like he gets involved in this kind of like Epstein cult. It's really interesting, actually. It has like a lot of the kind of contemporary topics that we're talking about like last week. A lot of Satanism and very very similar to Foucault's Pendulum in a way. Anyway, so he wrote that, but what he's really known for in Europe mostly is the series of kind of swashbuckling adventure novels called Captain a la Triste, and it's about, they're set in like the golden age of the Spanish Empire, and it's about this, basically a musketeer that fought against the Dutch in the wars of religion. He ends up back in like Madrid or something like that, and he gets kind of entangled in all these plots with like uh like inquisitors in the Roman Catholic Church, Jews, assassins, all these crazy plots, pirates. At one point, he's like sailing against the Muslims for the Venetians, and it's about nine books, and they're really good. And I've read all his novels, but he also writes a lot of contemporary novels. He wrote a novel called Where We Belong, about a professional dancer on a cruise ship from Spain to Brazil, or Spain to Argentina, in the interwar period. So it's got uh Franco's like fascist like secret agents and chess tournaments, and then it speeds up in time, and it's during the Cold War. Now he's got KGB guys, Francoists, Nazi. It's just a really, really cool like novel. And his latest novel just got translated from Spanish into English, and it's called The Final Problem. And I'm going to tie it into Captain Blood in a second, okay? And in the final problem, it is a story. The main character is a guy named Basil, and he is a British thespian. He's an actor. He's an actor that is in his 60s, and the novel is set in the 60s. And he is a silver screen actor. He's originally a Shakespearean actor, a stage actor, but then he ended up becoming a silver screen actor. And his main character that he's known for, and he did like 20 something movies according to the book, was Sherlock Holmes. So this guy was like the defining Sherlock Holmes. And but by the time the book starts, he's washed out. He quit doing Sherlock Holmes because he got typecast. He didn't want to be Sherlock Holmes anymore. And it's been 15 years since he had a role. And he finds himself on this island, this small Greek island, very similar to one of my favorite novels, The Magus. And he's stuck on this island at a hotel with a Italian film producer who's trying to get him a show, a Lebanese opera singer, and a bunch of random, characters like two British women, a German couple, a suave Spanish guy. And they're stuck on this little island with just a hotel because there's a storm in the Mediterranean Sea or whatever they're at. And a murder happens, right? And everybody in the hotel is like, "Well, solve it, bro. You're Sherlock Holmes." And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm an actor that played Sherlock Holmes." And the novel is really interesting because it's in a way kind of a joke, but it's very intelligently written, and it goes really deep into like early Hollywood lore. He quotes all the actual real Sherlock Holmes movies from that era. And right away, like I stopped him, like, who is this guy? Who's he? It's obviously like not his real name, but I wanted to see who he was. So I looked up, and the real life actor that matches this character is Basil Rathbone, which is the guy on the right, with the mustache in the picture, who was the villain in Captain Blood. Because in the book he talks about how he actually played the villain in Captain Blood too against Errol Flynn. So I was like, okay, that makes
Right,
sense.
right.
Okay.
Oh, this guy.
And-
Okay, yeah, Basil Rathbone.
right,
I know this dude.
right.
Right. Okay.
And so the book itself is a genre novel, a genre mystery, a closed room, almost corny mystery, but made completely contemporary and perfectly like up to date for 2026, because it's very intelligent, right? It's not just a pastiche of Sherlock Holmes novels. It's a commentary on the character, because you have so many like meta layers in this, right? You have an actor that spent 20 something years living as the character Sherlock Holmes, kind of being forced into a Sherlock Holmesian closed room mystery on this island. And the other layer is that when you're reading the book, so you're reading it from this is Seymour, I'm talking about a book called The Final Problem by Arturo Perez Reverte. So we are reading a book about a literary character, Sherlock Holmes, who got life being played by Basil Rathbone. And now but the actor's not even really the actor, because it's the character in this current book we're reading in 2026. So it's doing something really interesting and really fresh, and it's doing a lot of commentary on what is real, what is not real, what is fake. Is you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, no, I do. The Final Problem, isn't that one of the Sherlock Holmes books also?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so okay, I get it. Yeah, it's just meta layers everywhere.
Right. And it made me think about my conversation last week, or no, 2 weeks ago, when I was kind of dogging on a lot of new fiction. And I highly recommend people that winced at my commentary to read this book, and just Arturo Perez in general, because you can do this kind of you can do this kind of pastiche fiction, or kind of aim for eras back in the day, but you have to do them new. You have to add new commentary. It has to be, it has to kind of, you know, live in the present and have commentary in the present. It can't just, the difference between something that has a point and something that doesn't is that, is it pertinent to our current life right now in 2026? Is there commentary for today? Or does it speak to us? Or is it just entertainment that makes us nostalgic for the past? Right. Uh, and that's the difference between pastiche, right, and actual literary power or literary meaning. And so this kind of sent me into kind of a spiral of thinking about that. And then I started thinking about Captain Blood. And Captain Blood, which is what the picture is, it's of the movie version, right? Have you ever read Captain Blood, Fisto?
I have not. No.
Okay, so Captain Blood is a very, very, very good novel, right? And it's written by I believe he was Swiss or Dutch, but he lived in England, so he counted as an Englishman. Um, his name was Raphael Sabatini, and I think he was part Italian also. And Captain Blood it's like the pirate novel. It's in the era of the silver screen, which is like 1935. The swashbuckler the swashbuckler adventure swordsman kind of movie was peak, right? That's what you got. This was even before the cowboy. The cowboy like western kind of supplanted this era of movies, but before the western, you had the swashbuckler, right? And Sabatini was the Stephen King of his day. He guy wrote like 40 something novels, and a lot of them got made into movies. Like Treasure Island was popular around that era, and they were just knocking these out. Like this one, Robin Hood, like the old Errol Flynn Robin Hood is the best Robin Hood movie there is out of all the Robin Hood movies we had. A lot of them don't even exist; they're not even allowed. And but Captain Blood novel is actually really good. It's a novel from just a different era. And a few years ago, I had this kind of weird fascination with reading early 19th century adventure novels. So I read Captain Blood, and I really liked it. It used to be one of my dad's favorite novels when I was a little kid. So he's always like, "Oh, read Captain Blood." So I read it. I reread it as an adult. I'm like, "Oh, this is really good." And then Raphael Sabatini wrote another novel, which is actually much better than Captain Blood. And I highly recommend this to everybody that's listening. And it's called Scaramouche. You know what Scaramouche is?
It rings a bell, but remind me.
A Scaramouche is a type of clown that is part of like the Italian and French comedy art. You know how they have like the different characters, like the tramp or the Pantaleon or whatever, and the different like the fat guy, or Scaramouche is like the sad, mischievous clown, basically.
Ah, okay,
And
okay.
it's one of like the stock characters from these like clown comedy troops that they had back in the day. And Scaramouche is a novel about the French Revolution, and the character is he's basically like a kind of effete noble. He doesn't really care about anything. He's a nihilist. He gets caught up basically being on the pro-revolution side, gets disillusioned. Becomes a anti-revolutionary, and he becomes a clown for a while and then a sword fighter. It's just like this crazy adventure novel that follows this guy's life through the French Revolution, before and during the French Revolution. And when I read that book, now these books are not in any way, shape, or form considered high literature, or they were never considered high literature at this time, right? They're the equivalent of airport novels, or just fun stuff that boys read, young men read, or And what really struck me reading this book, Scaramouche and Captain Blood, is the level of intellect and knowledge expected of the reader makes any contemporary novel off the shelf at Barnes and Noble look absolutely retarded, right? Like, this is a book written for like high school age kids, but you're supposed to know about the French Revolution, right? You're supposed to
Yeah,
know
right,
about
right.
all these, like, what the different estates general, and the different, like, Robespierre and the terror. This was stuff that the book does not, like, assumes that you understand the context of the French Revolution, right? Captain Blood assumes you understand the geopolitical historical context of the French fighting the Spanish in in the Caribbean. And that's what struck me, going, wow, if this book was written today, it would be like 800 page longer, because it would over explain this stuff. Like, it would over explain basic stuff. And what I thought, what kind of came to mind, is that, in a way, maybe the reason we are so attracted, so many independent writers and new writers are so attracted to fantasy, is because we're retarded, right? Because the much better, much more pure genre of adventure fiction is actually the historical fiction, right? Stuff like Three Musketeers, Captain Blood, novels set in a historical setting that, in a way, educate you about the historical setting, but require multiple layers of understanding. You read a novel that is a historical novel that mentions a character, even like the one I'm reading, The Final Problem, which only takes place in 1960, but constantly references Golden Age Hollywood. I'm constantly stopping and hopping on Google and looking up, like, Casablanca, who directed this, and, like, what is this about, or what's going on? And one of the characters mentions an event, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. And, like, I look it up, and I'm like, oh, and it's constantly, like, teaching me something, or I'm understanding our history, even if it's just popular history, like Hollywood history. But a fantasy novel, everything in that world that you're reading belongs to the author. There is nothing beyond the head of Brandon Sanderson, right? And it makes me think that this idea of the self-contained fantasy is very egotistical, and, in a way, kind of retarded, right? Because it it shows a lack of it shows a level of autism of just creating my own world, but it shows a lack of interest in our own world. I don't know, maybe I'm being too harsh on fantasy writers. I don't know, what do you think?
No, I don't think so. I was instinctually picking up what you were trying to get to here, and what I mean by that is you create your own world and you obsess about world building, and you spend all of your time building this thing, um, because you can't be bothered with the world that you actually exist in. Adventure
Right.
fiction and stuff like that. I mean, I'm thinking about, like, movies, for example, and, like, at least when I was growing up, the only historical movies I think anybody, like, even knew anything about was anything even remotely related to, like, World War II. Like, that's the best that you could get away with, because that's all anybody knew anything about. So, like, Indiana Jones, oh, the Nazis, okay, yeah, those are the bad guys. Like, that's the extent of our knowledge. And then something like Saving Private Ryan, like, that works because, oh, everybody's heard those stories, and everybody knows about D-Day, and da, da, da. It's just like, this is as
Right.
far as you got. This is all you know. It does strike me like, you know, you see lots of conversations about, don't waste too much time world building. You got to write the actual story. And then with what you just described, I'm like, guys, you live in an actual world. Just learn about that one. Like, you don't have to make anything. You don't have to make any of it up. And a lot of it is already bonkers. Like,
Right.
we live in a
Right.
fantasy, guys. We live in a fantasy already.
Right. And I'm not saying that fantasy is not good, or
Right.
anything like that, but I am saying that if you look at the trends in our like science fiction, fantasy, or media. And when I say science fiction and fantasy, I also include, like, all the Marvel stuff and all that those are science fiction fantasy novels, right? Or movies. There is a huge shift in our cultural desire for, like, pure escapism, and in a way, Hollywood and the literary media has disconnected us from the world, from the history of the world. And when it does that, it sets us in a world that is of our own creation, or worse, the creation of somebody else. And what is our greatest problem right now with our political elements and ideas is that there's a lot of people that all have become so disconnected from reality that they live in their own self-created, self-indulgent fantasies. That's where you can have a blatant news event, and you'll take two different people to have a completely like different interpretation, to where, like, just if you want to see an example of what I'm talking about, just go through like a lefty Substack, and you're like, what planet are these people living on? We're not living on this in the same country. We're not living on the same planet. It's like we're not even living in the same dimension with these people.
Yeah, I was thinking about how everybody tore up Starfleet Academy. It's not even remotely attached to anything that came before in that. And it's also how you get things like, Joan of Arc is going to be played by a black woman. Like it's just it's whatever your ego wants it to be. And I think you're right. I mean, yeah, fantasy's great, absolutely, but the uh, the fetishistic overdoing of it is the problem.
Right. I think that what we need to do, and I'm going to become a proponent. I've decided this week, I'm going to become a proponent of the historical novel. All right. I think that uh, dudes on the right, or right wing bros, if you're writing, let's drop some historical novels. Okay. That's what we need to do. We need to take history and make it, you know, like if they make Joan of Arc an African woman, well, let's write a novel about Joan of Arc, dudes. You know what I mean? You want to write a Christian novel? Write me a novel about Joan of Arc. You know, some of the best historical novels are actually, like, one of the best historical novels of all time is written by a lefty, which is The Name of the Rose, about a Roman Catholic monk as Sherlock Holmes in a monastery, and it was written by, well, an Italian lefty, but still. And yeah, let's do it. That's like my challenge to our lit bros: historical adventure novels. Let's get them done, guys. All right, I challenge. I want to read one
You
in like
know,
6 months.
I
Let's
think
get it.
yeah, I think this is a really great idea because speaking as a high school teacher, it's something that you can then point kids to and say, look, just learn about a period in history and then write about a dude living at the time. Like, you don't have to do a novel about Joan of Arc. Do a novel about a dude in the town over from Joan of Arc who's just like, what the fuck is going on with all this craziness? Just write novels about people wrapped up in massive historical events. Zwart's got a great idea. Uh, Mansa Musa is played by Rob Schneider. Um, that's a great idea. Or uh, alternatively, he could be played by Chris Evans. Let's just throw him in there. I think that's a great idea.
That would work. That would
Yeah,
work.
it absolutely work. I mean, why not? We need to do a movie where Nathan Lane plays Muhammad. I think that's going to be an excellent idea.
All
So
right.
yeah, just go for it.
I'm putting it out there from now on. Okay, this is the Black Ibis Social Club. Um, you write that novel, I will read it, and we'll have you on here, and we'll talk about it. Okay,
Oh yeah,
that's that's
absolutely.
that's our
Great
challenge
idea.
to you guys.
Great idea. Yes.
Historical adventure, or it doesn't have to be. It can be any genre of literary novel. It can have magic for all I care, right? It can have magic. It can have all
Yeah,
that
why not?
stuff, but it needs to take place in an actual historical era.
You know,
And
it's funny that you say like it can even have magic in it. It reminded me out of the silent or not out of the silent planet. That hideous strength, Merlin, literal King Arthur Merlin shows up. Lewis is just like, deal with it. Merlin's in
right,
this. I don't even give a shit. Yeah,
right,
just do
Merlin
that stuff.
shows up. Right. No, that's what we're doing. That's our challenge, the Black Ibis challenge. You have a year to do it, guys. The year 2026 will be the year of indie historical uh themed novels. We're going to reject fantasy and we're going to push history. Okay. I mean, come on, man. Think of all the great novels from like because we're talking about right wing art here, right? Like that's kind of the
Yeah,
topic. If you guys read,
yeah, absolutely.
you're reading Twitter, reading Substack, everyone's like, no right wing art. Okay. Well, okay, one of the things we do is we look back at better times. that's kind of the thing that we're focused on. We're always statue posting all this crap on in the right wing, right? So let's do it. All right. Write me a mystery set in colonial, I don't know, Virginia, right? Write me a mystery set in, you know, I don't know, during the French and Indian War, right? Um, yeah, Johnny Granjero, that's your boy right there. He 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 pointed out Shogun as a historical novel. Shogun is amazing. If you've never read Shogun, right, by James Clavell, I can never pronounce it. I love Shogun. I love all the novels by James Clavell. I actually, if you've never read Shogun, I highly recommend it. But I much more prefer his novel Taipan. And Taipan is a historical fiction adventure novel about the founding of Hong Kong, and is one of like my favorite novels of all time. And Taipan, I liked it so much that after I read it, I went to Hong Kong. Right? I literally I,
Nice. Okay.
I took my pregnant wife to Hong Kong because we were like, are we going to go to Vietnam or Hong Kong? She wanted to go to Vietnam. I was like, no, 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 we're going to Hong Kong because I read Taipei and its sequel, Noble House. And I wanted to see Hong Kong because this novel is about how, this guy named Dirk Struan, he basically built Hong Kong through his like mass machinations and stuff. Yeah. Taipei is amazing. Read it. Um, by the way, Hong Kong, do you know what it means? By the way, do you know what the word Hong Kong means?
You explained this once, but I forgot because I'm stupid.
Yeah, Hong Kong means big corporation, or like
Yeah,
a like
I
Kong
was gonna
means
say the
big.
company, right?
Yeah, it- um, Kong means big, and Hong means it's basically like a corporation. Yeah, so it's literally mean it. I guess you can translate Hong Kong to the big corporation, which is I think kind of cool. It's like the ultimate and yeah. Oh, and then yes, and then I actually have to mention the guys at Pilum. Those guys actually write mostly historical fiction, like especially Brian Renninger. If you grab the fourth, the fourth collection of books, there's short stories and excerpts from Brian Renninger, who's in the chat, and he's writing about the Alaskan Gold Rush. He's writing adventure kind of fiction that's set in the Alaskan Gold Rush. And let's talk about historical fiction. You just did a podcast on Tombstone.
Indeed.
All right. Tell us about that, which is
Yes.
also, historical fiction, because the Western is a historical fiction.
Yeah. So I went on Frank Kidd's podcast. We just Frank and I have kind of been bro posting back and forth on Substack, and one day we were like, "Hey, we should chat like for realsies." So it finally happened. He decided that the topic would be Tombstone. So yeah, we just chatted for a couple hours, discussed the film, the Western, and then it kind of got typographical because I brought in Librarian of Tolano's excellent essay, Tombstone is not the movie you think it is, where he basically elaborates on how it is a massive fable about gods and monsters and redemption and so on and so forth. He wrote that article right around when Val Kilmer passed away. So it was pretty much like an homage to not just the film, but also Val Kilmer as an actor. And yeah, it was great. It was also the Sunday of the Last Judgment, uh, which made it really interesting. We dived into that. We have a visiting priest, and he delivered an absolute banger of a homily regarding the Last Judgment. So we went deep into that. And yeah, it was just overall a really interesting conversation. I really recommend you guys do that. Frank's got a cool little show, and yeah, it was just good. So
Yeah,
that's what
I
that was.
haven't. I have to admit, I haven't listened to it yet because
That's fun.
I've been backlogged, and it's sitting
Yeah,
up.
right, right,
I've got
dude.
so much.
Every time we get on this podcast, you list me like 55 books. Like I'm never gonna get to die, dude. I'm just gonna have to sit here. We're gonna write historical fiction about a guy named Fisto Sabani who is cursed to live for 1,000 years until he reads all of the books that Alexandru has cursed him with. So that's there. Free book idea, guys. There
I,
you go.
you know,
Free
I
book idea.
sometimes I forget that I read at retard speed. I really do. And you
I'm
know,
gonna have to confess the sin of envy this week because of that.
so
I mean, it's cool though, dude. Like, don't be ashamed of that. That's fantastic.
the reason I read really fast and is really, I'll tell you right now, because of Dungeons and Dragons. All right.
Really?
And
Okay,
when
hold on. You're gonna have to explain that.
so when we were little kids, my friend group and I, we used to play a lot of like tabletop role playing games, not just Dungeons and Dragons. We played Vampire the Masquerade, World of the Apocalypse, like Shadowrun, and we weren't well off. We were like lower middle class, I guess. Maybe that's where I lied to myself. We're probably upper lower class, if that makes more sense. But we had my best friend. He was a little bit more well off. His family was a bit more well off, and his mom would always give him like tons of allowance money and stuff. He would buy a bunch of like role playing books. He'd be like, "Oh, I got this new adventure. I got this new monster manual. I got this new like uh 4 books of second edition Dungeons and Dragons, and let's play a giant campaign." And he was kind of a retard. I love him. He's actually great. He does really fancy, high tech, top secret stuff now. But he wasn't a heavy reader, and neither was my
Yeah,
younger brother or like our other
sure.
friend group. So they would hand me, and I was always the dungeon master. Okay, I was the dungeon master. Nobody else wanted to do it, so that's what I did. So you know, every few weeks they would hand me a stack of books, and they're like, okay, set up a campaign. So I just had to power read through these books like in 5-6 days, understand the rules, fully comprehend everything, and create like an entire world, and then read some fiction on the side to kind of incorporate into this the storylines. So I think that right there is what got me like made me a super fast reader, and it allowed me to read. So I can average about a
Yeah.
novel a novel a
So
week right now.
so so Dungeons and Dragons legitimately gave you magical powers.
Hmm.
So, huh, imagine that.
Absolutely. Right.
Fantastic. Good. Hey, good for you, you son of a. No, I'm just kidding. Um,
So when we I posted the other day, I said like what should we talk about? Once again, Johnny in the chat, he had a
Johnny.
really good really good comment that I wanted to address, and he said that he commented on our conversation at the end of last week's podcast, which I about having children and millennials not having children and what we should do. And for you guys that don't feel like listening to the entire podcast, I actually broke that conversation into a separate YouTube video because I thought it was pretty interesting. So I wanted to kind of separate that one from our kind of Epstein conversation we had earlier.
Sure.
And you can find that. I shared it everywhere. But what Johnny said was that he connected with what I said about the goal that supporting my daughter, and that's what I want, right? That's all I care about. I don't care about anything else, right? And his comment was, he said there seems to be an undercurrent of ingrained defeatism in the right. Why don't we make art like this? Why can't we do this like our parents? And we must reject that in favor of supporting the future, our children or the children of others if you don't have them. Planting the trees, you will never sit in the shade or whatever. So basically saying that he agreed with me, right? Which, thank you, I agree with that topic, right? And the last few days I've been thinking about that comment. I've been thinking about like what I can say to that. And what we often have these conversations across the podcast sphere, like what do we do? Like how do you increase, child people having children? And is it money? Do we do the whole thing like Russia and Hungary does, where they give tax breaks or extra money for it? Is that what makes it? And that doesn't seem to work. All right. Doesn't seem to work in Japan. And I think what I realized and what I've been thinking is like while I was while we were having that conversation last week, 2 of my friends had children. They were like literally their wives were in labor having children, right? Like uh that night, one of my favorite guys at church, his child was born, and then the next day I get another message from one of my uh ex coworkers that he sent me a picture of his newborn that was just born. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. They're all Gen Zers, though, by the way. And it made me think, like, what do these people need, and what they really need, and what we need to focus on is building a community that supports parenthood. That's the key, because it's not money. Money, the whole I need to save up money and that kind of stuff. That's I think that's a little bit nonsense. It does play a part, but what really matters is there a support network? You know, will you, as your neighbor and a friend, go out and take your, you know, bring food to a new mother because she can't cook because she's too busy taking care of the baby, right? And the
Yeah.
father's at work. Um, like at our church right now, almost everybody, the family that just had a new baby, they also have two older children, and they're my daughter's age. Sorry. And everybody went and picked up their other daughter and took her to the park, and my wife hung out with them, and then another wife came and picked up the kid and kept it at her house for a bit and make sure like she was taken care of. You know, it's this level of support that is missing in so many people's lives, right? And I think that's what we need to focus on. If you have a church, a community center, you know, whatever, like a organization you're working with, that's what we need to build. We need to build an environment where having a child is possible because you have people there for you. Because the worst thing that happens in our generation, and I've noticed this, is a lot of times due to so many people living far away from their parents, not being around their children, not being around other parents, there's just no support network, and you become isolated. You have kids and you can't go anywhere. Like, you know, you're not friends with a, you know, you're not friends with anybody with kids, so nobody can come babysit. Nobody feels comfortable to, and that's really what's missing, I think, right? Is this greater community. And you know, we've been talking about what basically I wrote in my notes. We need to ask ourselves, what is best in life? Like, what is our goal? What is our goal in this life, right? When you talk to your children and you talk to young adults, you have to go, well, what do you want out of life? What is the goal? What are we teaching you that is important, right? And you know what's the Indian dude that said that those Indians are better at being Americans than, you know, remember a few months ago, a few year ago or whatever? That was like a huge hoopla.
What was this again? No, I don't.
That
I
that
don't
Indian guy that said
recall.
like
Oh,
he
yeah,
said
Vivek Ramaswamy, who was all like Americans
right,
suck, and then everybody was like, "No, you suck,"
right. So I was
basically.
thinking about that, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking about what Vivek said. And now that I think about it, I'm like, you know what? He's right. He's right. A lot of Americans intuitively suck at being late 20th century Americans, right? Because somewhere along the line, I don't know if it was in the 60s or the 70s or in the 80s doing Reaganism, uh, the true American culture got replaced by a hyper materialist, um, you know, American psycho culture, right? You know, a what's his name from American Psycho? Uh, you know, entire
Patrick
Patrick
Bateman.
Bateman, right? Patrick
Yeah.
Bateman. We all became Patrick Bateman Americans, and everybody's like business maxing, stock maxing, looks maxing, just obsessed with achievement. I got to go to college. I got to go get my master's. I got to get my PhD. I got to get all this stuff. I got to get respect. I got to get money. I got to get my yacht. I got to do this. You can see it in our low culture and like rap culture, or even like, you know, even country culture, which has become rap culture, and you know, and that's it's all about that. Like, what do you do? In a way, he's right. Chinese people and like Indian strivers are better at doing that than we are because they're ultimately bug people with no souls, right? I'm sorry, I'm gonna get banned off of YouTube, right? Because that's what their culture is about, right? Being a doctor. Why are you not doctor? You know, or why are you not doing this, right? And there is no art, there is no culture, there, you know, there's no love of just being chill and that kind of stuff, right? So he's right that we cannot and we should not want to compete against the striver, against the bug man that just wants to business max or looks max or all this stuff, right? And in a way, I was thinking about that dude that, you know, that's looks maxing that everybody's following around clavicular or whatever. And I'm like, dude, that
Yeah,
dude's
what is
so
that? I don't know what I've seen that and I have no idea what it is.
it's heterosexual transgenderism is what that is. Okay. It's
What?
basic it's heterosexual transgenderism.
I'm okay. I'm just gonna get to the point where I'm just gonna spam that meme of Brad Pitt saying shoot that guy. Like that's
Right.
pretty much where I'm at this point.
But
But
that's what
anyway,
it
please
is.
continue.
It's basically applying all this self fantasy, self-created world upon straight culture, and it's turned basically straight it's a few years ago, if you guys are tracking like trends on Instagram with women, um, people like Kim Kardashian and the makeup trends and stuff have turned women into transgender men, basically.
Oh, I see where you're going
Right?
with this. So it's not
The
it's like that one meme where you've got like the plain looking normal girl, and then she gets all dolled up and looks like a freaking mannequin. But it's
right.
that applied to dudes.
Well, she looks like a transgender man,
Yeah, right.
man to
Okay,
woman,
yeah,
right?
no, yeah, shoot that guy. But anyway,
So
yes, please.
now it's that same culture put on young men, young straight men, right? So we're just dealing with like trans, male to male transgenderism is basically what that's going on, right? It's basically a dweeb to Chad transgenderism, but ultimately it's just transgenderism, right? There is nothing masculine about injecting yourself with hormones, so many hormones that you're technically, supposedly, I don't know much about this dude, but he's supposedly sterile in his early 20s because he's injected himself with so many like growth hormones and stuff. And it's absolutely absurd, right? Like it's just the opposite of masculinity. It's the opposite of heterosexuality. It's just pure, heterosexual transgenderism, right? Um, and yeah, that's really the problem, right? This whole maxing thing, this obsession with constant achievement and success is not really an American thing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really a
So, Alex, I'm going to cut you off here real brief because my urge to rant has grown.
go for it.
So perhaps my inner beings is about to unleash and is about to slaughter all without mercy. But I think two things have popped into my mind as you've been speaking. Is I think where it all went wrong was the original Trinity nuclear bomb test, and I'm going back to Twin Peaks: The Return, where the little demon creature crawls out from wherever dimension it crawled out of and then crawls into that little girl. I'm thinking of that scene specifically. That's where it went wrong. That's when the United States entered the Black Lodge,
All
right?
right.
We split the atom. We accomplished the single greatest feat in all of scientific materialism. And I would suggest that we really haven't done much since. Um, we did it. We reached the end. We went, well, we've done it. Well done, everybody. And I don't think we really understand the demons. We don't understand the destruction that we unleashed. And I don't just mean physically, but spiritually. And what that's led to is our culture basically going into the toilet, and all this doomerism, all this uh, defeatism that John brought up in his comment. It simply betrays the fact that we don't take the gospel seriously anymore. We don't believe that we have eternal souls. We don't believe that what we do in this life matters. We don't believe that we're going to be judged when we're dead. And we don't believe that 2,000 years ago, a man literally walked out of the fucking grave. We simply don't. We simply don't believe it. And we can say it as much as we want, and we can try to write about how much we believe it, and this and everything. But our actions condemn us. Our actions prove otherwise. The society we have constructed is a vehicle for creating demons, not saints. And that's really it. We just have to say, look, burn it all down, fix it, fuck you, fix it, and that's it. That's kind of where I'm at with this. And like this clavicle, whatever, dude, just no, just delete your account, delete yourself, move on, go join a monastery, stop, just stop, get out of the Black Lodge, fucking stop.
Right. And I think, well, I think the question is like, well, what do you say to young people? What do you say to people, right? Well, I don't know. I think that what we need to do is we need to take a stop, right? We need to
Yeah,
go, okay, we're gonna stop. And I was listening to Dave Green's stream last night and this morning. I haven't got a chance to finish it because Dave Green's a marathon runner, man. The guy knocks out 4 hour streams, and I'm just like, dude, I only have a half an hour drive to work. I can't. It takes me like 4 days to listen to one of his weekly streams. Um, and he was saying that one thing about, he was comparing contrasting the left to the right, and um, he said something that I agree with him. He says that the left is usually very strong when it's in power and when it's ascendant, right? Where when the left has full like cultural control, it knows how to wield that cultural control really well.
Right.
And
It's because it's fully materialist. They've got this full on material world. They wrote the rule book, and so they execute. I mean, of
right,
course, obviously.
the right though is always at its peak, or it's always its strongest when we're on the back foot, right? When
Right.
we're not in power and we're like a dissident voice. And because unfortunately our problem, and once again we're going to go more into the right left thing in our next topic, our main topic that we haven't even got to,
Nice.
but
Outstanding.
the stuff we're going to talk about, right?
Yeah.
The no-ter stuff. um
Yeah.
but the right is unfortunately defined by opposition, right?
Right.
And if you were to ask your regular right-oid kind of chud on the internet right now, it's like, what do you stand for? You tend to get something like, I'm not woke. I reject transgenderism. I reject this. I reject that, right? Which is all negatives. I am not this. I don't do this. I'm against this, right? And we're all pretty much united in this, whether it's us here, the black feathered professional rancateurs, or the pagan bros, or the Roman Catholic bros, or all those guys. We are all basically united in not liking that stuff. Right? We're like, no, I don't like that. Hate all that stuff. But beyond that, we tend to not have a unified plan or a unified answer, a unified goal, which is why since the last kind of, I would say mandate like victory culturally in the United States that the right received with Donald Trump being elected, we've kind of been kind of stalled in a way. Like, oh, what are we doing? Because okay, so what now? Like, what do we do now? Right. And we can't just be defined by this opposition. And give me 1 second, my bros. I got to say goodnight to my daughter before she goes to bed.
Aw. No matter how intense the rants get, there is always time to say goodnight to family. Am I right, folks? Anyway, guys, how do we like the cell phone quality? Does this work for you guys? I hope it's good. I'm gonna maybe post a picture of my setup. It is the most ghetto shit you've ever imagined. You guys are gonna be like, really, Fisto? What is wrong with you?
I'm back.
Hey, welcome back. I was just sharing about my absolute.
I could still listen to you. I had my headphones on. I
Good.
just
Yeah,
muted
just
Mike so I can give her a good night kiss.
Oh,
It is a cozy stream. Anyways, back to
this
the
is a cozy
rant.
family stream. Yes, sir. Cozy
Okay.
family stream. Anyway, you were saying what now?
Right. So
What do
we
what
are
now?
defined by our opposition. And we're not united in any way, shape, or form. We are united in our opposition, but not in any way or shape or form. We are not united in our, actual, prescriptive action. Right. We're very good at description. I mean, I I can point out to you in the last 5 to 10 years, since like 2017 or 2015, actually, outstanding articles and books on the descriptive problems of our contemporary modern world, but we do not have any sort of, what next? What next, right? And I think that one thing we need to do is we need to stop and go, we have to ask the Conan question, what is best in life, right? That's the question we have to ask, right? And go, what is our goal? What is the goal of a man in this world? What is the goal of a man born in our time? What is Frodo's goal? Or what is, Samwise's goal? Or any of them, right? Like, is it money? Is it family? Is it fame? Is it, high culture, low culture, education? Is it achievement? Like, what is the goal, right?
Well, I think to maybe segue into our main topic, Haywood's article Alex, what is our way of life? What's our way of life?
Well, our life should be the Christian life, right?
Right, but what is that? What does that look like? Do we even know?
No, that's the sad part, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, that's what I was thinking. I I think the last bit of theory that most of us need is the realization that we have to go back to the beginning. We have to go. We really have to strip it all down and get out of the Black Lodge and answer that question. What is our
right,
way of life? What should our way of life be? We don't know. We legitimately have no idea.
right,
I'm not kidding when I say that we live in a culture, we live in a society that it's a machine for it's a machine for creating demons. I'm 44 years old. Just a couple of years ago, I finally began to turn back. I mean, that's progress, but phew. I think we got to I think we got to I think we got to reckon with that.
right.
It's like when we were joking about the not joking, but when we were talking about the movie Tombstone on Frank's podcast. Like Wyatt Earp wasn't looking for vengeance; he's looking for a reckoning. And how much of us really even know what that looks like, or even knows what that means, or can even conceive of participating in something like that?
Right.
And I'm not speaking like that. I know the answers to any of this. I'm simply the guy who has been digging a hole most of his life, and I'm looking up, going, "Oh shit, I need a really tall ladder." So what's that ladder
Right.
look like, right? How do we take that step out of the Black Lodge? So
And you
what do
know,
you think?
I know I agree. And
Yeah.
Lent is about to start. Great Lent, and we're about to enter. I'm going to be at church every night of the week, basically from now until April. And I'm giving up. One thing we're doing is we're going to completely minimize our screen time around the house. We're not going to. My wife and I have already decided that we're going to do zero screen time, like no Instagram, no Facebook, none of that stuff. I'm going to keep it very minimal on Substack just because I'm doing the podcast. We're not going to do any video games, and every single day we're going to read some Psalms, and we're going to read some of the gospel, and we're going to sit around as a family, the three of us, and we're going to just read novels together. I'm going to read a book to my daughter. I haven't picked one yet, but we're going to pick one, and we're just going to try to do like quiet, reflective time every day after school. And I'm very much looking forward to it. And one thing, and this, I'm going to tie it into Tombstone a little bit, right? One of the defining words of our contemporary materialist culture is happiness, right? I need to find my happiness. Well, what does happiness mean? What is that? Like, what is to be happy? And are we supposed to always be happy? Are we supposed to always feel good? You know?
No, of
And
course not. Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
you would
Happiness is
think,
an emotion. It's a feeling. It's not some.
right. And
Yeah,
you
it's
think
not
that
valid.
almost everything in the material world is geared towards this kind of pursuit of happiness, this pursuit of constant happiness. And I really want to kind of contrast it, especially during Lent, with the idea of joy. Joy and happiness are two very different things. And joy, from a Christian perspective, is truly what we should be looking forward instead of happiness. And we also have to kind of realize that there is suffering, and there's a joy in suffering. And I'm thinking about Tombstone, and I'm looking at my MRI results, and my spine looks like I got run over by a bulldozer, basically. And one of the MRI techs, when I got my MRI yesterday, goes like, "Man, how many pain meds are you on?" And I was like, "I'm on none. I'm on zero pain meds. I don't take any pain meds."
Raw
And
dogging it.
and
I'm
he's
raw
like,
dogging
he
it.
he he's like, he looks at me and he's like, "How?" He's like, "How do you not take any pain meds?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just, I go to church."
Did you douse them with holy
Like,
water? Did you douse them with holy water and cast out
I
demons?
just, it hurts all day, and it hurts to like write or lift my arm up, but whatever. And I've come to realize that, like, in Tombstone, you have Doc Holliday, And the guy's suffering. He's dying. He knows his days are numbered. He is not of this world. He is,
Yes, I
you
love where
know,
you're going with this.
he's gonna die. He can, any minute now, he's gonna die. Whether it's, the next day, he's coughing up blood. He's just, falling apart. And he pushes on. He's not going to have children. He can't have children. He can't do any of that stuff. He's not going to leave any legacy behind, except his legacy as a friend to Wyatt Earp, to the Earps, and a love of the Earps, and his code, his honor code. And that's what matters to him. And he pushes through the pain and the suffering, and he forces himself to, be there for them during their vendetta towards the end of the movie. And then when he finishes his purpose, he ends up, dying a miserable death, because tuberculosis is a horrible way to die. You're basically choking on, you're choking on blood in your own lungs. You're dying of like aspiration pneumonia, like like blood in your lungs. You're drowning in your own blood. And he does it with joy, with his boots on, or his boots off, actually, right? He dies with joy, because he knew that after all that mess that happened in the OK Corral and the vendetta, his friend that he loved gets to go on with his life. And that to me is just like a really interesting thing, because it really contrasts the idea of happiness, comfort, and pleasure, and then the idea of suffering and joy. And that's something that, like, I think we need to stop and go, you know what, like, maybe we should stop telling our children that their goal is to become the astronaut or the high achiever, but they should find joy in life. That's what they should find, not happiness, not pleasure, not money, but joy. Like, follow joy. And I think that change, that cultural change, would be great. And then we need to deport everybody that is a striver back to their countries, and they can build their own stuff. But I would rather live in a less rich, less powerful country with more joy than having all the the Lamborghinis and the Bugattis and the skyscrapers that, a fake supermall country like Dubai
Yeah,
has.
yeah. I think all we've actually created is just lies. One of the things I enjoyed about the Last Judgment homily was kind of the worst sin. He basically went through the idea of, that after you die, there's these toll booths, there's these different sins that you're going to be confronted with. And it struck me that the worst of all, the worst one of all, was lack of mercy. That's at the top of the severity list, was lack of mercy. And it struck me just how inverted our society and culture is compared to what it should be. The kingdom of heaven, the greatest sin that you can commit is a failure, a lack of mercy.
Right.
Wow. All right, great. And I think a lot of that has to do with, I understand what Dostoevsky means when he says the worst thing, it all begins when you lie to yourself. That's where it all goes wrong. Because when you get to that judgment, when you get to that end, you're going to be accused of things. And we should take great joy in the fact, or not maybe joy, but like, yeah, I did that shit. Absolutely. I mean, that's what confession is for, man. It's practice. It's
Right.
practice to not fucking lie to yourself about who you are, what you do, all the crap. And it doesn't mean you got to feel bad about it per se, although shame and things of that nature are certainly good. But we got to be honest with ourselves, man. The Lamborghini, okay, dude, no, just get out of here with that. That thing's going to, I used to be an insurance adjuster. That thing's going to rust. It's going to fall apart. It's not going to last. It's not even going to last 20 years, 20, 30 years. Like those things, they are disposable consumer products. As amazing a machine as it is, at the end of the day, it's going to be rusting in a junk heap somewhere. I mean, pathetic,
Right.
super pathetic. And that's what it is. You're right. A slightly poorer, it's not a poorer nation. It's a more honest nation. That's what
Right.
we need.
Right.
Take Italian shit box. Yeah, exactly. All that stuff is just whatever, man. It's all gonna
Right.
rust. It's all gonna go away. It's not gonna
It's all
last. Like
it's all just
you're just lying to
ashes, man.
yourself.
Right.
Yeah, it's just lying to yourself.
It's just ashes,
But
and
yeah,
and I think that's what if I can teach my daughter or something right now. I was thinking about that is I want to teach her that none of that stuff matters, and I'm not saying, I can hear the screeching in the background right now, people saying that like, oh, it's defeatism or you're aiming low or something like that, no, it's not about that. It's that you're you're looking at fool's gold and calling it riches, you know and I, I have seen my generation, I have seen the millennials become strivers. Do you know how many friends I have that did everything right, Visto? They went to really good colleges and they did everything, and some of them became like military officers, some of them became doctors and stuff, and now they're in their 40s and they have no children and they go home alone or to their second husbands who, and it's just there's no joy in that,
yeah,
it's if you would have told them. And I think a lot of I was having this conversation with a friend at work today, and we're talking about like, how a lot of women we know that are working like night shifts as nurses and stuff are like kind of burnt out on it already in their 20s, and it's just like, what are they doing, how come they're doing this? And they're like, well, they can just quit, they went to college and they did this. And I'm like, well, that's just a gambler's fallacy, you know like, you don't have to do that forever, and yeah, we need to make money, like we need that's just the reality. We have to suffer through financial issues, and we need to suffer through, feeding our families and being responsible. But at the same time, consider the birds, God will provide, and sometimes God will provide less than you think you need, right? And it's important to realize that you don't need, two Escalades and a Land Cruiser and all this stuff. And you don't need 17 subscriptions and you don't need all this stuff. You need to just reject this, man. And I know that there's the idea of fully disconnecting, going all the way out, right? Fully disconnecting and becoming the anti-machine, going full out, like buying a farm and doing that. That's a fantasy. A lot of us cannot do that. 99% of us cannot do that. Okay.
yeah.
Um,
Something small. This is making me smile because I got some slight bad news in the mail today. The good news was, so there was like some insurance stuff, auto insurance stuff in Florida, and I don't owe an auto insurance payment until April, which is pretty great, right? That's super nice. Works out real good because I got a speeding ticket, so it's like that can't be that bad. I mean, back before, a few years ago, I probably would have lost my head. I would have been super pissed. And it's like, yeah, I'm a little annoyed. I'm a little, angry, but it's like, meh, it's not that big of a deal. It's fine. It's fine. Ticket's not even that bad. It's whatever. Shit happens.
Trust me,
Birds, man.
I haven't done
Consider
my
the birds,
taxes
man.
yet. I haven't done my taxes yet, and
Oh
I'm
yeah. Ugh,
stressing that, man. I'm
I'm
probably
kicking that
gonna.
can down the road. I'm just
Ooh,
waiting. I'm waiting on that one. But
man.
it's a small, stupid, silly thing. But I think it's the kind of thing where that's where you have to start. And I think a lot of us, the right, I think, and men in general, we like to think very highly of ourselves. And really, what we're talking about here, Alex, is humility. It's really understanding what humility is.
Right.
And a lot of people will be like, no, you gotta, elite theory this and intelligence this and arguments. It's nah, shut the fuck up. I'm glad I have money to pay a speeding ticket. Praise God.
Right. Right. It's like
Yeah, that's how bad we are. That's how bad off we are. That's just how bad off we are.
the
That
most
that
elite the
that
most
that
elite
is.
people the most elite people are living in a cave somewhere in Alaska right now on Kodiak
Yeah,
Island, okay?
right.
And
Yeah,
they're
absolutely.
not they don't they're trying to eat fish jerky. Um right, that's we just got to realize that, like I was saying, people like poo pooed against the machine, and they're like, "Oh, it's just a fantasy. Nobody can just disconnect." To a certain degree, yes, yeah, you're right. We can't do it, especially us with kids and obligations. But it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Okay, the all or nothing concept is a Western, specifically an American disease, right? And you don't have to do everything 100%. Just the path to God is not a straight line for most of us. Okay, maybe for the saints it's a straight line, and not even for all the saints, right? The path to God is a spiral. You're getting closer, and you're back to where you. But every time you spiral closer, you're a little bit closer. Okay, because the spirals overlap. It's a series of circles. You're walking in a circle,
Yeah.
but it's like a little slinky, right? And you're making your way all the way up, and that's the goal. The goal is like you're not going to do everything all at once, because that's not how life works. But you can do little things, and you can orient yourself as long as you're oriented in the proper direction, you'll eventually wash upon the shores of what was it in Lord of the Rings, the far shores, the
West.
western shores, right?
Yeah, the Western Shores. The
Even
Grey Havens.
Yeah, some of us are sailing in speedboats, and some of us are sailing in massive galleons with great sails, and some of us, most of us, are on a ratty,
Yeah.
piece of waterlogged wood, and we're just following the current in that direction. And at least
No.
that's that's our goal.
Some of us pull the Samwise. We've wandered into the water, drowned, and we're hoping our corpse makes it.
Yeah, that's exactly and I would be happy if my
corpse, like my bloated
my
corpse,
fish-eaten corpse washes on the shore, the western shores, covered in barnacles and seaweed.
We made it, bro.
Yeah,
I don't got an arm anymore, but no. I think what you're getting at, like you said, it's a very American disease. I think you're right, because it's not a finished product. It's not something you go fucking buy on a shelf, right? Like I think that's where a lot of people get lost when it comes to King's North to the machine, against the machine. Like, yeah, okay, so the guy's living on a farm in Ireland somewhere. Sure, that's fine. He's saying progress in the correct direction, not just jump to the end. Oh, I'm going to go to Walmart. I'm going to buy my Against the Machine starter pack. I'm going to go ahead and set that up on my porch. And it's not something you buy at IKEA and like put together with that funny little screwdriver. That's just
right.
Come on, like stop. It's
a journey.
Connecting with you have an eternal soul. You need to be reminded that you are a human being. You are not a machine. You are a creature in a created world.
I mean, a better
at Walmart. Yeah.
A better way to put it would be not an American disease. It's actually a Protestant disease. Because when you think about
Western disease, a Western Protestant, like it's the logical endpoint of the Faustian man.
Right. Well, when you look at it, you see these massive Protestant super churches, and you're like, you know what? I accept Jesus, and I'm going to go to this church, and I'm going to watch the rock band play, and I'm going to watch Reverend Joe with the Vans and skin tight jeans and the cool shirt on, and he's got this headset on, and there's a movie screen behind him, and I'm saved, bro. That's all I gotta do is show up every Sunday and drink my coffee, and I got it. I'm saved, and I post some Instagram memes about Christ, and I'm there, dude. And that is the kind of mainstream non-denominational Protestant view of things, where you just kind of you Christ max basically, but Christ is a self-help book, not an actual journey of theosis that
right.
There's no sacrifice. It's all internal.
But Lord, I bought the T-shirt. I wore the T-shirt. Jesus.
Yeah, I believed it. I voted Republican, guys. How am I not in heaven?
Yeah. But I bought the Jesus starter pack at Walmart. What do you mean this has all been? Anyway, I'm being silly now, but
so it's 8:19, and that was our intro to this podcast today.
Oh no.
No, I'm just joking. That was the first.
All right, we're going to speed run the main topic. Let's go. Here we go.
Talk the main topic. The main topic is enemies and friends, and it's specifically on the topic. It's a continuation of last week's conversation with Librarian of Kalano, which, if you haven't listened to that one, absolutely listen to it, even though he was actually floating on a log heading towards the western shores based on his audio quality.
You don't get
but it was still a good episode
off the western shore of Middle Earth. Unfortunately, the Wi-Fi is not great.
The Wi-Fi is not great.
That's okay though.
but we're talking about the concept of no enemies to the right, and also referred to as netter, or it was comes out of Charles Haywood's writing. Charles Haywood is a Twitter poster. He's a writer. He runs a bunch of kind of right wing stuff. He's been around forever. Real cool guy. I don't agree with all his stuff, and I don't think he likes Romanians very much. I don't know, but I think he's Hungarian. That's probably why he doesn't like Romanians. And he,
Nobody's
he
perfect.
also he
Nobody's
wrote a
perfect.
recent article like on the 16th, which he changed netter to noter. No, what did he say?
Instead of no enemies to the right, it's no enemies on the right.
On the right. So you want to introduce that idea because
Oh
you
boy.
yeah we can basically give us a quick overview of it, and then I'll hop in on into it
Um.
too.
So yeah. So I'll try to boil it down the best I can. I'm sure I'm not going to do it justice, but um, it's essentially the right has no actual power. We live in a world that's completely and utterly dominated by the left. So what is to be done? And no enemies on the right is very much a tactical strategy. It's the idea that, and I think he gets into some or he gets into some Schmidt here, where the idea is, you know, our enemy is that which would destroy our way of life. So anyone on our part of the way of life, anyone who's our way of life, it can never and will never be an enemy. No matter what happens, no matter what goes on, you don't ever seek to destroy that person. Um, Essentially, it reminds me a lot of what made the nationalists in Spain so successful. It was all about unity, 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 unity. That was the key thing. Everybody had to unify in order to defeat the existential threat of the Second Spanish Republic. And once that is complete, once power has been seized, then we can start turning to our disagreements and things of that nature. One of the things that I really liked about the idea is that he talked a bit about cancel culture and things of that nature. It doesn't mean we don't disagree. It doesn't even mean we like each other. Like we can call each other retards, right? All you guys are retards. Fuck all of you, right? Like that's fine. Like we can disagree. We don't have to like each other. We can even be a little mean to each other, maybe. But I'm not going to try to destroy you. I'm not going to try to get you fired from your job. I'm not going to try to get your wife to leave you. I'm not going to try to corrupt your kids. I'm not going to attack you. At the end of the day, we are all on the same side, and we are going to turn our guns at the enemy. And it's an effective tactical thing because it unifies us against the enemy, and it identifies directly who the problem actually is. This is why, like earlier today, I was trolling a couple of Marxist larbers, and one of my favorite things that people typically do is they start talking about, oh, what an intelligent response, and I'm just like, fuck you, dude. You're my enemy. I don't care. You can say whatever you want.
Right. I
Like
don't owe you an intelligent
yeah,
response. We're not
I
engaging in
don't.
conversation.
Yes, I, I don't owe you anything more than just the absolute deepest, the deepest. Just get the fuck out of my face. I just don't care, and it's something they can't really deal with. It was funny because the guy that I was screwing with was like talking real big game, and then very quickly blocked me and moved on. I was like, yeah, that's what I thought, buddy. It's whatever, but it's that example of like, no, I'm not going to listen to the enemy. I'm not going to play by the enemy's rules. I'm not going to accept the enemy's formulation of things. I'm simply going to tell them to shut the hell up, and that's it. I'm done. Nope, zero, zilch, nada. But anyway, I hope that's a decent summary. But I think basically just the idea is it's a way to express unity, and it's a way to focus our tactical problems on our strategic problems on. We don't have power. Get power, and then whatever needs to happen after that, that's a problem for the future, right? That's one thing that I really like about this is that he talks about we are the present, right? Our problems are what they are. We cannot deal with, like, there's no point in figuring out the things that come later after we win, right? You have
Right.
to win first, and that's simply the truth. Like, what's it going to be like, or what's it going to? No, shut up. We got to win first. That's a
Right.
problem for the later people.
Right. And I liked how you brought up the Spanish Civil War, and the
Yeah.
Spanish Civil War is interesting because one of the very kind of unique elements in the Spanish Civil War is that if you study the Spanish Civil War, you don't actually have two factions.
Oh no, you absolutely do
You have
not.
two major factions, but within
Yeah.
those factions you have
Yes.
multiple sub factions. And for example, on the right, on the left, you have your anarchists, your straight up NKVD, Soviet Stalinist sponsored kind of groups. You have your kind of moderate liberal types. You have your I know your which would be like the Republicans, basically. You
Yep.
have lot of different elements, like subgroups of different anarchists and like kind of localists and all types of stuff. And then on the
Yep.
right, you had very many factions. Also, you had the Raquettes, which were basically uh, Roman Catholic monarchists. You had certain regional groups that were
The
right wings,
Carlists,
the Carlists,
various
right?
different. Yep. The
You had
army. I mean, the
you had
army
the
itself.
army
I mean, I
itself, which
mean,
was mostly
yeah,
Algerians, basically. If you really want to be
Moroccans,
Moroccans, yeah, I'm sorry, not Algeria. I'm thinking of
which
the
is
French.
hilarious. I
Yeah,
mean, the fact that
Moroccans.
Franco invaded with an army of Moroccans.
Right.
I mean, he invaded with an army of Muslims.
Yeah, you had the Phalangists, which were basically pro Hitlerist kind of Nazis, like Nazi
Uh,
fascists.
I'd say more Italian, but sure.
Yeah, they're more fascist than Nazis, right? Um,
Yeah.
and what you did have very different than almost everywhere else in the history of the 20th century, you had an inversion of the dynamic. You had a situation where the right wing was exceptionally unified, where they disagreed about a lot of things, but they stayed very unified under really the army, under Francisco Franco, while the left was very disunified. If you can read Homage to Catalonia and even Hemingway, Hemingway stuff and Orwell stuff, they were very, very disorganized, and they did their favorite thing of
Read read the Comintern documents. I mean,
right.
that was the whole point.
They were constantly caught in like purity spirals and betraying each
Yeah.
other
Oh
and
yeah.
doing all kinds of stuff, and it's probably what caused their defeat, really. And even with really, they had international support compared to the right, and their disorganization and their kind of chaos is what led to their defeat. Now, after
Yeah.
that, historically in the post World War II era, you tend to have the opposite situation where the right is very disorganized and there's a lot of infighting, while the left, and the idea of no enemy to the right really is a leftist idea. It comes from the no enemy to the left. And for guys listening today or in the future, what it's really referring to is that in left wing ideological circles in contemporary culture, you tend to have the left does not attack their own extremists, right? And what you have is you have very moderate, very normal kind of contemporary politician types, and their more extreme edge, somebody like even the ones that are elected in mainstream will say crazy socialist stuff or stuff that, like, 20 years ago would have been considered like anathema in American politics, and nobody like says anything about it. Nobody's like, yeah, we have a Somali senator that is basically saying that Somalia is her number one goal. Nobody says anything about that. It's just normal. It's just she's the elected person. you know where if a right-wing politician, for example, would say something along the lines of like, well, I'm a Russian, and I think Russia is the girl, you would have the end of the world, and every single person on the right would just immediately remove that person from any type of committee or anything like that. The left does not go against their own crazies. Even their extremists, like lunatic fringe, like the trans shooters and that kind of stuff, they don't get, when there's a trans shooter or a far left blue haired person gunning down somebody, you don't have a bunch of leftists going, oh, we need to tone down the far left rhetoric. You don't have a bunch of bow tie guys freaking out about the extremism in on the left. They never ever shoot in that direction. Okay. But on the opposite side, on the moderate right and the moderate, like in the far right, anytime some crazy wingnut or whatever goes off the deep end, you have the next day on every single news channel, every single podcast, you have somebody just freaking out, going, "Oh no, we need to tone down masculinist, misogynist rhetoric, or we need to tone down blah blah blah," and immediately starts throwing people under the bus. It's like, "Oh no, this person shot somebody because what's his name? What's his name? YouTuber, is too much of an extremist groiper or something like that." And that's where this idea comes from, and this is where Charles Haywood is talking about. He's actually referring to Rod Dreher, who is an Orthodox convert. He used to write for the American Conservative, and this guy's interesting. He used to be like an Anglican Episcopalian type of guy, and in the 90s, I believe he converted to Roman Catholicism, and he wrote for the American Conservative and a bunch of other places. He's a kind of a cat lady Christian in a way, and during the 90s or the early 2000s, during the whole Roman Catholic kind of pedophilia scandals, he turned hard against the Roman Catholic Church. He had a loss of faith. He left the Roman Catholic Church and he ended up converting to Orthodoxy. And over the years, he's gone a little bit more right, but he was always a moderate, a bow tie conservative that kind of rejected the mainstream Protestant / Roman Catholic kind of conservatism and ended up on the Orthodox side. And now um, he's over in Hungary. He lives in Hungary, and he still writes. He's got a pretty popular blog on Substack, and he's written some interesting books. He wrote a very good book called The Benedict Option, which was kind of really a precursor to Against the Machine. It's not as interesting, and it's more from a Roman Catholic standpoint, but it's still worth reading. And he writes some good stuff about the Soviet era of Eastern Europe. But he has a tendency to shoot right. Whenever some Twitter poster on Twitter, some anonymous Twitter poster is exposed, or somebody says something that might be a little bit off color racist, he immediately goes for the jugular. He immediately signals that, oh, we don't approve of that, and blah blah blah, and this person should be fired and doxxed and that kind of stuff. And it's really unbecoming, to be honest. And I think it really does a disservice to all his good writing. And the idea that Charles Haywood came up with was really due to this kind of back and forth he had with Rod Dreher. So that's kind of like the history behind it.
Right. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. But what's interesting is that I agree with it. I think it's one of these things when you brought it up and that we want to talk about it. I really don't have any disagreements with it. I agree. I don't think we should shoot right or shoot against our people. And that might sound kind of, what's the word here? Not hypocritical, right? Let me refresh my stream real fast. Can somebody type something in the chat? Because I can't see it. I had to refresh it. I see it. Okay, it works. I might sound hypocritical because a lot of what I write and a lot of what we talk about here is critiques of different elements that might be considered on the right. We talk about pagans and we kind of diss on Protestant bros and stuff like that, right? But I don't think that we are. I don't think we're punching right in a way, because we're not really a political entity. We're not really doing politics here. We're doing culture. And also, I'm just not interested in the left. Right. Like I don't like you, how, you just call them retards and you move on. I don't really want to have a discussion with people on the left. I care about shaping our world.
Don't even want the opportunity where you would have to call them retarded.
Right. I'm ultimately
that's fair.
I'm not very interested in the left, because I know their positions, and their positions are stupid and not really, they're not really coherent, and there's not real reason to get into what am I going to discuss? I'm having an immigration debate with some of these guys. It's irrational and insane,
See, this is the beauty of No Enemies on the Right, because you and I can have this this difference in style, and everyone forgets, like, guys, this is a team sport. We have to work together. Alex, you speed read, and I call people retards really fast. It's we all have our role to play. We all have our job to play in this, right?
Right.
I call them retards, so you don't have to. You're welcome. I'm kidding, but it's just, yeah, it's good. So anyway, yes, please continue.
Right. So I think that as a whole, we need to keep this principle uh, in our toolbox, right? And kind of keep
Right.
this in mind and realize. And I want to actually read some elements of directly from his. I'm going to read the tenets. I'm going to paraphrase some of them real fast for time purposes, right? Because the tenets of, I don't know what he calls it, NEOTR, neater, noter, neoter, right? I don't know what you'd call it, right? He's probably going to make fun of us if he ever listens to us. So his first tenet is that the only present real life goal of the right which matters is total permanent defeat of the left. All else, including any possibility of the future flourishing of mankind, depends on the defeat and is downstream from it. Okay, I agree 100%. I'm with it. All right,
Yep.
I
Done.
agree.
Sold. Say
All right.
less. Say
Two,
less.
the left are those individuals, entities, organizations, and systems animated by left ideology. Okay, I agree. All right, I fully agree. Um, Left ideology is the ideology that is the essence of the so-called Enlightenment. This consists of demands for total emancipation from all bonds, not continuously chosen, combined, and forced egalitarianism, all in the belief these principles will lead to an actual utopia of a heaven on earth. Okay, agreed.
Yeah,
The
I
left,
think, Alex, one thing I want to add to that, because when I talk about this with students, it can be a little difficult to kind of download these things. But something that helps me is just, do you believe humans are a blank slate or not? If you think we're blank slates, you're on the left. If you
right,
think, nope, we're not blank slates, then you're on the right. That's kind of a good way to summarize that principle.
right. And then he says, number four, the left is the enemy of mankind. An enemy is, as Carl Schmitt says, an adversary who intends to negate his opponent's way of life and therefore must be repulsed or fought in order to preserve one's own form of existence. An enemy is not someone with whom you merely disagree on strategy, tactics, or aesthetics. All right. I'm going to go back to this one right here. All right. An enemy is
Good,
not
because I think that's
someone,
one of the most important. Good.
right. An enemy is not someone with whom you merely disagree on strategy, tactics, or aesthetics. It is an enemy that intends to negate his opponent's way of life, right? Number five is at this present moment, the right is properly defined as anyone and anything not left. The right is extremely diverse in belief relative to the left. This is relevant, at least today, all right? I want to go back to that one too, right? The disagreement and animus and therefore conflict among those on the right will always exist. This is the nature of man in politics. What to do with respect to such conflicts should be evaluated solely with the criterion whether any given action serves to defeat the left. This does not mean one cannot say, I don't like your tactics, I don't like your policy proposals, or for that matter, I don't like you. It does mean that no person on the right needs to be repulsed or fought in order to preserve one's own form of existence, because only the left threatens our existence, and that's most imminent. Therefore, no action towards anyone on the right should ever seek to or threaten to stop that person from earning a living or from being a full member of society. What is sometimes that term is not very helpful, called cancellation, right? Number seven, some disagreement on the right is helpful to achieve our common goal. Some is not helpful, but not destructive. Either way, disagreement on the right should always be conducted in a way that does not benefit the left, but rather advances the goal of the right to permanently end all left power. Okay, I agree. Occasionally, as with so-called intellectual dark web or the classical liberals, some on the left may espouse some principles or policies of benefit to the right, not to help us ever, to be sure, but to help themselves. Cooperation with such people to achieve limited present political ends should not be rejected, but because the primary loyalty of such people is to the left, we should always realize they are and always will be eager to destroy us at the first opportunity. They are enemies and will always be unless they change themselves and reject the promises of the left. All right. And then No enemies on the right is not a permanent principle. When the right gains power and the left is utterly defeated, there will be enemies on the right because disputes will arise. It's saying that like once we win, we'll fight it out, and then you can phrase it in different complex ways, right? Okay, so here's where my concern comes to, right? Now, this is truly a discussion of politics, right? This is strictly a political realm. We're not talking about the spiritual realm, right? And the way I look at it, though, is I think that I'm not, Fisto, we're not fighting against Democrats. I don't hate Democrats. We're not fighting against, we're fighting against a materialistic ideology that started as Adam and Eve walked out of the Garden of Eden. Okay. Like we're fighting against the same ideology that built the Tower of Babel. We're
Yeah.
fighting. Well, that's what we're fighting against here, right? And the right and the left are, ultimately ideas that are contemporary materialistic ideas, like a mesh of ideology put upon a eternal battle that has been going on since the Garden of Eden.
Right.
And
Okay.
I look at, how we look at the last week's episode where we talked to librarian. He talked about, academic agent and that stuff. I've noticed that one problem on the right, or whatever you want to call it, is that because we don't, we're not really good at identifying friends and enemies, and we're not really good at, having like an actual prescriptive ideology. We we judge a lot of people as being on the right, but then, am I on the right? Are we on the right, Fisto? I guess we are, but we're on the right because our religious beliefs put us on the right, our religious and philosophical beliefs. But do we've been, sparring with the pagans, right? Are the right wing, neo-Nazi type pagans, are they on the right? you know are they?
Yeah. I think online, I think we have to make a very clear distinction between online and the real world. Um, I mean, me talking to some random pagan and having a disagreement with some random pagan, I mean, that they don't live in my town. They might not even live in my country. It Other people might see it, but at the end of the day, I'm responsible for my household. I'm responsible for what I do at my job. I'm responsible to the people in my immediate community and my immediate surroundings. So, um, that's what I focus on. Now, if there was a pagan in my actual community and someone that I was having a disagreement with, then that is an entirely different matter, right?
Right.
Online, it's whatever. We're just talking to people. I'm talking to people. It's whatever. Fine. It can be useful. It can be not useful. In my real life, that is a dramatically different thing. Um, you said earlier, like, Democrats, we don't hate Democrats and things of that nature. For me personally, that's slightly different because working as a teacher, I work in the most democratic friendly and most liberal part of my entire community. And I can guarantee, for a fact, I know this, that there are people at my school who do not like me because of my religious beliefs and because of my political beliefs. And how that manifests is just professional avoidance, polite avoidance, which is fine. I mean, that keeps the peace. I have no reason to throw down with these people. Like, there's no issue. There's no fight. Like, there's no fight to be had, right?
Right. Right.
But Haywood's formulation, I keep a list in my head. I know who these people are, and I simply am guarded around them.
As you should.
Um, right. And there are a couple people on the flip side. My close colleague, there's another guy who we're slowly forming a triumvirate. We joke that it's the Imperial School, that's what we are at the high school. We're the Imperial School. And these guys I can trust. Like, these are foxhole guys. Like, done. They need something. I'm dropping what I'm doing, and that's it. Right? Like, whatever
Right.
you need. So I think that's where a lot of us need to think about and talk about it. Like, if you if your life, if your experience with these things is totally online, it's not real. It's just not real. You might think it's real. It might feel very real. It might seem super important. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you can flip the off switch and your life ends, you don't have you don't have a life. If the power goes out and your life disappears, you see what I mean?
Right. And I
So
agree.
yeah, so I think for a lot of us, like this discussion is great because it's going to then allow us to go back to our own communities and go back to our own individual real life situations and go, how should I approach this problem?
Right. And I think that this is where the ideal application of this kind of principle is on that level where, you know what, I am not going to go against, if in your workplace or your neighborhood and stuff, you identify the kind of people that share the same beliefs, whether they're religious or philosophical, political beliefs, you should look out for them, even if they make mistakes, even if they might be
Right.
unsavory to certain degrees,
100%.
within
Yeah.
limits, right?
Yeah.
Uh, to kind of adopt a type of united tribalistic front against the kind of people that are going to throw you under the bus the first chance they get, or
Right.
the people that are waiting, those hyper liberal types are waiting for you to make a mistake, and they cannot wait to correct you. They cannot wait to do it. And I mean, we have that in on all elements, and in this level and a micro level, I fully absolutely agree with this principle without a doubt, right? And I even
Yeah.
agree on on Substack and that kind of stuff, right? Where, yeah, I'll argue with you about, thinking that fantasy is lame or fake and gay or whatever. But you know what? I still will buy your books. Right? I say that a lot to people, right? I go, hey
Yeah.
man, like, I think the idea of, writing forever pastiche fantasy is dumb, but I'm just still gonna read it, and I'm still gonna buy it, and I'm still gonna support it, because you're on my side. We're fighting the um the greater side. And I agree with Brian in the chat. He said also no friends in HR, right? Maybe we should become the HR departments, right? I don't know, like, or we should take over HR. And
Yeah.
uh, I always think that a lot of young dudes need to learn that HR is usually women, and you should just win them over by being chads, and
Yeah.
that's how you win against the HR ladies.
Yeah. 100% agree. 100% agree.
You know,
Whenever I have observations or whenever I have things, it's almost typically done like that. And it's, you get more with honey than you do vinegar. That is always going to be true. And
right,
especially when it's in your own community and it's the people that you know in your real life. Like don't pick fights. Don't pick fights for no reason. There are
right,
very few. There's probably very few of us that really have any true fights. We
right.
think that there's more fights than there actually are because that's all anybody does online because everybody's a fucking retard. But in real life, there's very few people. And I mean, of course, if people come after you, like I could share a couple stories of people where, they've tried to they've been trying to insert themselves into my life. Um, you know, there was a situation where someone was trying to make friends with my wife in a way that we did not agree with, right? And we dealt with it, right? Like, nope, this is not. And you just gotta be. This is normal person stuff.
There's a
A lot of
old
this, a lot of
there's
this
a
is normal
old
person stuff.
there's an old military kind of leadership thing that always thought was good, and I've known it for many, many years, is that you praise publicly and you
Oh,
criticize
yes.
privately,
Yes.
and that's a good
100,000%.
that's like a good way to handle things, where
Yeah, it really
you
is.
you agree with somebody publicly, but you know you praise, you criticize, privately. And I've actually done that on Substack where I think I've done it to you, bro,
You
where
have.
like
Yeah,
I've
it's
been
great.
like, I'm like, I'll like your post or something like that, and then I'll send you a telegram message going, oh no, you're kind of wrong about that, and this is
You're
why,
kind of a dumbass, Fisto.
yeah. And you've done it to me where you've said, oh, like,
Yeah.
I've gone after somebody on one of my manic depressive, like, posting streaks, and you've sent me you've liked all the messages I've said, or even like joined in kind of jokingly, and then you sent me a
Right.
message going, no, that guy's actually pretty cool, and he's like 19, so don't be too hard on him or something like that,
Yeah. Well,
It-
I think what you and I are getting into here. I'll admit, at least certainly online, that is a principle that years ago I was very, very bad at. Like 2, 3, 4 years ago, I was not doing what I was supposed to be doing. I had enemies where I did not need to have enemies. And it is what it is. But online, I think the difference for you and I is, I mean, we know each other's real names. Like we know
Right.
where we live, right? Like you have my address, dude. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's real. You and I are now real. When it's online, like still to a certain extent, like do not mistake. I mean, guys, I post with a pseudonym. I write behind a pseudonym. I do that because if this is no longer useful to me, I will press the delete button and vanish without a trace. Like I don't care. It's I have it structured like this very, very intently because my
Right.
focus and my true work is not online. So when you and I act this way, and we have solidarity on Substack, well, dude, you're my actual fucking friend.
Right.
So yeah, I'm
Exactly.
not I'm not gonna throw Alex under the bus. Like, yeah, guys, no. At the end of the day, the worst you'll ever see me do is I might ask why he's gay. Right? I'm still waiting for an answer on that. But that's as bad as it's gonna get because
I
you're my
was born
actual
in
friend.
Europe, man. I can't help it, dude. I
It's
just
fine. It's look, no one's perfect, brother. I get it. It's fine. No,
right.
but yeah, it's ride or die. You have to be ride or die for your friends, and a lot of people have room to grow, and I speak as someone who had much room to grow on that front. So
Right.
whatever.
So I think that like ultimately our so where I okay, so what I was thinking is like because I agree with everything Haywood says, and I think the real issue is being Team Judy. Like, all right, because you guys are wrong. All right, Judy's the better one. What are you guys talking about? All right,
I mean, I
because
don't know, dude.
that's my wife's name. Okay, come on.
That's
All
fair.
right.
That's fair.
Um,
Kind of one shots you there a little bit. I get it. I get
yeah,
it. I
kind
get
of
it.
like one shots me, and I like the art hose. Okay,
Yeah,
and
the
I'm
BPD art hoe.
sorry, like I listen to Red Scare.
It's
Um,
fine.
I
It's fine.
think I think my if I had one concern, and I think he even addresses this, maybe not the best, is that I think we have a problem with so. And when I say the right, I hate that. I hate this whole thing. Right? People in our sphere tend to become enamored with anybody that seems to agree with one or two of our points, and then embraces these people like exceptionally so, like the whole Kanye West thing, like, you have Kanye West and he's dropping the Heil Corporal song, and
Yeah.
he's saying crazy stuff that sounds like Alex Jones stuff, and we're like, oh, he's so based. Oh my god, Kanye West is based. I'm like, dude, the guy's like a gooner pornographer
The guy's a
creep.
clown. The guy's a
He's a
clown.
clown. He's
Laugh the
like,
clown.
yeah, married to like he is married to Kardashians. He's just a creep. He's really weird and creepy and gross. It's like, okay, so like he is a creature of the left. He is the like if we just say that we're fighting the forces of evil here, right? That dude is a creature of that, right? He's a creation of that world, of that materialistic evil world, right? So
Right.
just because look, the devil knows everything we say, right? The devil agrees with everything because the devil believes in Christ, right? So the devil will say things that are like, you will agree with, right? The devil agrees with 99% of the things that a Christian agrees with. He
Yeah.
just
The
breaks
devil
that
is a
one
leftist.
last thing, right?
The devil is a leftist. He'll say whatever he needs to. It
Right.
doesn't matter.
So you have to be like you have to like we tend to do that, and stuff like guys like Kanye West are easy to like suss out right away. You're like, okay, come on, guys,
Right.
you guys are being clowns, right? Just because he wears a MAGA hat, he's not your homie, dude. He's not gonna come to Tuscaloosa and hang out with you. Okay,
Yeah.
like shut up. But we tend to have a lot of like people that are these like moderate right guys that would have been lefties in 2010, right? Like Obama
Right.
liberals and stuff like that found themselves on the right, and they're like, I agree with everything on the left but one thing. So I'm going to make this my money making thing and I'm going to argue against this. Now, okay, so yeah, you're doing good stuff in that one topic, but it doesn't mean you're my friend. Okay. It doesn't mean that I want to live in your world, you know?
Yeah.
Right? Like
I think,
Brian
I think, I
Renninger
think,
says in the chat,
sorry, go ahead.
it's not even the left. Stalin would have been appalled by Kanye, right? And interesting enough, like if you read like a biography of Joseph Stalin, you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna like him. He's kind of based in a way, in a lot of ways, right? Like um the Soviet communists, if you were to apply a lot of their ideas on like race relations and that type of stuff, they would fit just perfectly fine in today's, Brezhnev would have been just fine in today's right wing, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that, his core tenets of his being are not evil materialist
I'll
socialism, right?
I'll say this. I'll say this. When it comes to Kanye, Stalin probably would have pulled a Beria, where he certainly would have made use of him, right up until he was no longer useful.
Right. Right. Because
Which is the way you
ultimately
do it.
they're
Like, hey, don't waste an asset, friend. Like,
right.
we might be able to use this guy before we put him up against the wall. Come on,
Right. I
comrade.
mean, and then it's like how you see like the Soviets were very fond of Muslim nations because they were
Right.
anti-West, and
Right.
they
Yeah.
supported Muslim, like, but the Soviets did not really believe in Muhammad and Allah and all this stuff, right? They're godless atheists, but they supported anybody that was against us. I mean, you know,
Well, it's like I think this goes back to what we talked about at the beginning of the podcast. These guys played to win.
right,
And in a lot of ways the United States was like this too. I mean, think about some of the people that we've allied with and some of the people that we've joined forces with, and like, I mean, it's not, it's almost as if after World War II, it just kind of broke everybody. Oh, well, it's over. We don't need to have any real enemies anymore. We don't really need to have any friends anymore. We've got, we have the bureaucratic daddy blanket, mommy blanket will protect all of us now forever. And we lost the killer instinct. We lost the killer instinct.
right. But from our like me and you here,
Yeah, right. Yes.
as like 40-year-olds and not politicians, not
No.
parents and just husbands and stuff, we have to like look at things like like we have to have some like level of purity control in a way, because when we talk about stuff like the pagans, right? Okay, the pagans, oh, we got right-wing pagans, they're like Thor bros and they're nationalist or whatever, right? Yeah, but um modern neo-paganism is a creature of the left. No matter, it is
100%.
it is a creature of the left, and I made that argument before. It's no different than tarot card reading or self-actualization type stuff. And
Yeah.
just because it's wrapped, just because like you wrap it in the whole you know you know like right wing iconography and that kind of stuff doesn't mean it's truly of the right, because it's
Yeah.
ultimately I do what I
Dude.
want, I believe what I believe, and I'm a base pagan, and they're creatures of the left. I mean, and then you got the statue posting prostitute enjoyers, right? And how are you any different? You might not be, you might not be a left-wing crazy progressive, but you're still a spiritual homosexual in a way, right? And you're
Yeah.
still pushing degeneracy and evil. So yeah, you
Alex.
might be my ally, but I don't want to live in your world just as
Yeah.
much as I don't want to live in the lefty world.
Yeah. Something that we'll have to discuss and think about. I have this idea in my mind. Once we've both read McLuhan, and maybe we get to that this summer. Um, but when it comes to the neo pagan stuff, if you know your alphabet, if you can count to 10, you'll never be pagan. It's not
Right.
possible. You've already been one shotted. Like, do you write? Do you have a language? Do you have a language that's more or less, also heavily influenced from Latin? Sorry, bro. Game was rigged from the start. Like, you're just pretending at this point,
Right.
because the rationality, the thinking, the worldview that comes from knowing an alphabet, fuck out of here.
Yeah, it's just
You're
it's
done.
all make
You're already done.
believe stuff. So
Exactly. 100%.
I think that the idea of no enemies on the right. No enemies on the right is a good idea. I think that's one we should apply um, to our like localist kind of lifestyle.
Yes,
We should
yes,
also not reject when we're in a larger issue. We should not reject it against you know purity spiral or purity signal or that kind of stuff. But at the same time, we have to use discretion. And I think that's where the key comes in. We have to
right,
have discretion, and we have to, really reject people having the vapors, like like the vapors, like against like, oh, somebody said something I disagree with. Well, we can just be like, well, I don't really agree with this person, but I'm not going to sit here and try to get him canceled or
right. Just call
post
them
this
retarded and move
tweet.
on. Just
Yeah,
yeah,
I,
it's
I
dumb.
think
I
I
don't
think
like it.
that's a
I don't
good.
like
I
it.
think that's a good application, and we
Yeah.
can realize that,
Ah,
like, in the greater scheme of things, especially on this kind of like fake and gay kind of internet world that we live in, we can just be like, well, whatever. It doesn't really affect us. It doesn't affect my project, and it's
yeah,
ultimately like, let the pagan bros out there,
yeah.
do the Renaissance fair or whatever they do, and we'll let those guys do things, and we'll
Well,
focus
it's
on stuff
like
that really matters.
yeah, it's like being at school. Like, God, guys, did you hear what Rod said? Like this dude, like he's trying to get this guy canceled. People will be like, "Who's Rod? Why do I care about him?" Dreher, what was the name? Like, I mean, we would sound unhinged. We would sound schizophrenic. Like, who are these magical beings you're speaking of? Like, nobody knows about any of this stuff.
Right.
Doesn't make it not useful, but like, let's have a sense of perspective. Actually, you know what? I think that's what we're talking about. Have a proper perspective on all
Have a
this.
proper, exactly. Well, so what
Have
I
a proper
am is
perspective.
I am a joyful doomer. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So what I mean to say is that I fully believe that in the political realm, we are never going to win, right? Because we just can't win because like when you because we can't define what a win state is, right? So
Well, there
what I
is
mean
no
by
win
being a
state. There is no win
yeah,
state.
by what I mean is by I'm a joyful doomer. In a way, we've already won because Christ is victorious.
Right.
He has
Yeah.
risen, right?
Yeah.
And we will win, and we will. We're this is just a mop up operation, and we're stuck. We're stuck here until it's fully done, right? Um, but in this world, the current, the current setup that we're living in, we're never going to build utopia. The idea of the right winning, that is just utopian thinking ultimately, right? We're never going to have like look, we're never going to have an ideal right wing world because we can't even define within ourselves what an ideal right wing world is. Okay, because
Right.
so it's ultimately utopianism, and we must reject utopianism.
Yes.
So that's what I mean
100%.
now. That's what I mean by that. I'm a doomer because it's just it's just we're not going to win, man. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
This is making me realize that my political perspective on this stuff and my perspective on these things, like if you're an optimistic doomer, man, I do this shit for the love of the game. I think about where the United States is going to go in the next 10, 15 years. And I just pray, like, man, if I could see the American Julius Caesar, if I could see the American Octavian Augustus, fuck, man, that'd be great. It would just be so happy. Like, that was awesome. And it's only because it would be incredible to witness. And that's my inner historian talking, like, oh my
right.
gosh,
But
I
then
got to see
but
that. Oh, amazing.
right. But then your inner historian needs to know that after that,
Yeah, right. Of course.
we
Yeah.
had Caligula,
Right.
and
Yeah, I know. I know that. I know all that. But man, and like I said, it's for the love of the game, man. This stuff is just it's amazing. It's just incredible to watch. I love it. I just love it. And I think part of it is maybe like this deep. Maybe it's just I love mankind, man. Mankind is just freaking crazy. The good stuff, the bad stuff, all of it. It's just we get to be alive and watch this stuff, man. Like, cool. Fair enough. I can think of a lot worse ways to spend my time.
here's some perspective real fast,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Uh, okay, let's look at Caligula, right?
Oh no.
Let's look at Caligula, right?
This guy. What about
So,
Nero? Can I
well,
play
no,
my
no,
fiddle while
let's
Washington
look at
burns?
Caligula, right?
All right.
Caligula. Let me see. I kind of want to make a point, right?
Yeah, sure,
So
absolutely.
Caligula supposedly strangled his uncle, right? His uncle,
Yes. Yeah.
his uncle Tiberius, um, in that really cool. Uh, so his uncle was Tiberius,
That
and
was
he
the
was
that was the guy that took over after Octavian, right? That
that this guy
Tiberius.
took over
Yeah.
Octavian, right?
Okay. All right. Right.
And
Yes.
he basically Rome was such a giant mess, and of just degeneracy at that time that
Yeah.
he was so
It was already
paranoid that
beginning.
he moved from Rome and he kind of moved the center of government to Capri, right, a little tiny island, and he
Yeah.
built this giant villa, and um, in the year 37 AD, right, AD 37, right, Caligula basically, there's different stories. It's not perfectly historical, right? Through the Praetorian Guard, murdered his uncle, strangled
Right.
him, and became
Like you do.
emperor, right?
Like you do.
And then he went on to reign. And of course, there's a lot of like ahistorical kind of fantasy around Caligula, right?
Of
But he was
course.
known to be cruel, sadistic. There used to be all kinds of degeneracy. Some of the most disgusting degeneracy in the history. This stuff that would make the Epstein files look
The
like
stuff of
these guys.
legends.
These guys would be like,
Professionals.
look at these
Professionals.
amateurs. Like
Yeah, right.
if you were to take everything in the Epstein files, like all the conspiracy theories and if you just took everything as fact and you multiplied it by 10, Caligula's reign in Capri would look like it would
That's a
look like,
week.
yeah, it
That's a
would
week in
he would
Capri.
he
Don't
would
worry
look
about it.
down his nose at the degeneracy of he'd be like, what, look at these contemporary amateurs, right? But
Right.
what's
He would
really
have he would have Epstein executed for just being pathetic. Like that's
right.
the best you can manage. Just no. No, get out of here.
Okay. So what's key though, right? So he strangled Tiberius supposedly, right? In the year 37 AD, right? Oh, what was going on in the year 37 AD? Not very far across the Mediterranean from where this was going on, right? Like, that's, the kind of historical kind of assumption is that Christ was crucified at the age of 33, between 33 and like
Right.
37,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
basically, as the height of Roman degeneracy with Caligula was going on, Christ was basically
Yeah.
doing the
Doing his
thing,
thing. Doing his
right?
thing. Doing the
So that's
thing.
a good way to look at the perspective of things, right?
You're right.
You know,
That's very good. I like that very much.
right? Like we had at the height of the most powerful empire, Caligula strangulating Tiberius, and a
Mean,
few hundred
yeah.
miles away or whatever,
Well, meanwhile,
Christ
on
was
the
being
other side of the
crucified.
empire, yeah. Meanwhile, on the other side
Yeah.
of the empire, a dude walks out of it too.
Right. So that's important. That's important to keep into perspective,
Yeah, man.
and
That's good. I
it's
like
like,
that.
yeah, it's very interesting, and yeah, as
Well,
we're reading about the Roman Empire and the guys after Caligula and Nero, you had, Paul and Luke walking around the
yeah.
Mediterranean doing their thing,
You know what's
So
funny about this? You know what's funny about this? A few hundred years later, you get Justinian, who, depending on the history, is either Saint Justinian or basically like Caligula reborn, depending on which
right,
history you decide to believe. Like that's just
right,
hilarious. What? What?
right.
Oh, I
It,
love
it's
this.
wild,
This is
right? It's
great.
wild when
It's
you think
just
about it
man,
like that way, right?
this world, I can't even. This all right, fine, whatever. Let's
Right.
go.
So
Let's
that's
go.
exactly like that's the perspective that as Christians we have to think about, It's
Yeah.
like this was going on, and then, and when we think about like the whole Epstein file, I saw a really good post that outlined is probably better than I'm going to put it, but I had the same thought, which is it's just like there's if you were a Roman, a pre-Christian Roman, and you read the Epstein files, you'd be like, what? So what's the big deal? You know what? You have
Right.
to pay for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Isn't that's like an afternoon in a vomitorium, you know? Like, what are you
Right.
talking about, right?
So like, what are
And
the plebs? What are the plebs up to this time, Alexandru? What are the
right,
plebs up to this
it's like,
time?
oh, like
That's
that's just
adorable.
yeah. And we
Adorable.
we live in a world where even the idea of being offended at the Epstein stuff is being horrified at it is is basically like that's a Christian idea, man. Like you wouldn't have not without Christ, you would have never been offended at any of this stuff that you're coming across. You know what I mean? Um, when
Yeah,
you have like
and even the stuff that's coming across is like you said, it's pathetic. It's properly pathetic. Like take Genghis Khan for example. I mean,
right,
the dude conquers his way across Asia, involuntarily sires 30% of the Mongol population, or whatever it is. Like it's like we don't have any idea. Like
right,
it really does make me remember that, like Lewis wrote, as sin grows and as you draw away and you fall away from God, you actually become pathetic. Demons are pathetic. They're not cool. They're not glory. It's just you become this shriveled little creature. And
right,
in a lot of ways, like I said earlier, the modern world is a machine for making demons. It makes these pathetic, shriveled little creatures who are just, you know, we're getting the vapors over every little thing, and it's just, guys, come on,
right, right.
come on.
And I was sitting at work the other day, and we're kind of talking about the whole files thing, and I pointed out that like if you're like a progressive materialist liberal, what do you have to be offended about? Like that's the outcome of your belief system.
Yeah.
You're
Also, you're all going to die anyway, so it doesn't matter. I mean,
so yeah,
it's just materialist, whatever.
you're a
So who cares?
materialist. Don't.
Yeah.
And
Eat the
and
babies, whatever.
even like listen, like I mean, I'm utterly disgusted and I hate
Right.
all those people, right? Because I'm a Christian, right? But then you look at these guys, like even some dudes on the supposed right, who are into like Andrew Tate and stuff. Well, how is Andrew Tate any different than Epstein? Like he's buying underage, he's probably buying underage hookers from Ukraine and Romania and all this stuff, like he's like he's the dude's checking IDs, and he went to jail for prostitution, right, and
Yeah.
trafficking. So one's based and one's not. Like what are we talking? I mean, like guys like Bap, right? Guys like Bap, at least they have the common decency to like kind of actually like take their own ideas to logical conclusions, instead of like I don't know. I find the whole thing. It's like if your focus is not a Christian truth, then your compass is wrong, and no matter like if you win, you still lose because ultimately, if your focus is a material win, you're gonna lose no matter what. I guess that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say is that like
Yeah. I agree. I completely agree. It's the long defeat. It's the long defeat. I mean, even the ring being destroyed, Sauron defeated, Sauron cast down, Aragorn returned to the throne of Gondor. It's still all going away eventually. And that doesn't make victory meaningless. But you have to keep the perspective. You have to keep the perspective. And perhaps that's what really makes Haywood's piece so good, because it helps
right.
us identify what true victory looks like.
Well,
It's
but
not necessarily the temporal accomplishment, but it's the spiritual eternal effect on your soul that's going to last forever.
right, but that's the problem. That is actually the main critique of the Haywood piece is that in a way Haywood comes at it from a very materialistic angle, right? And the question is like, okay, fine. What if somebody that's on the right wins or whatever? I support them, right? But it's just Andrew Tate. Am I better off under Andrew Tate than I am under what I mean,
No,
right? Like
right? Yeah, no, that's
right
good.
or like
Yeah,
or even like like let's say some based pagan bro nationalists win, okay, am I better off truly under some like
absolutely not.
no, right,
That's a
I
whole other nightmare.
yeah, I win nothing, like I win nothing because ultimately it's all just another road to hell, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So I think I think a better heuristic of it, I guess a better way to look at it, is that does this person's viewpoint, does this person's philosophy, does this person's actions lead to a better spiritual outcome for me and mine? Right. And
That's a good
then,
heuristic.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
will the ideas that come out of this person's mouth lead to a better spiritual outcome? Will it bring me closer to the kingdom of heaven? You know, will it create a world where I can get closer, you know, that makes my life better, that, you know, allows me to raise my child better, right?
Could it
I think
be?
that's a better way to ask for it, you know?
Yeah. Could it be? Could it be? Will this make the day of judgment harder or easier on me?
Right.
That be a way to look at it.
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a great way, because if I win, if I win the world, but I lose heaven, it doesn't matter. It's not a
Right.
win,
Yeah. No.
you
Yeah.
know? It's like, cool, I'm in power of what? This shit show, this mess? Like, great. You know, like, thank you. Oh, it's like you win the Lamborghini, but you don't have any gas.
You win a Lamborghini, but it's like covered in cat hair.
Yeah, and I've got nowhere to drive, you
I got
know?
nowhere to
Like,
drive, and it
yeah,
smells funny, and I'm pretty sure there's a dead hooker in the back seat.
right. So like, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I'm
fair
a
enough.
joyful doomer, okay? Like, basically, you know what? Is never going to no human institution beyond like 10 people is ever going to be good. It just it can't. It can't, you know? Like, maybe 10 people is
and the
too
only
much.
well, and the only reason 12 worked is because it was literally the Son of God. So
Right.
there
Yeah,
you go.
12.
There you
No
go.
no human institution beyond 12 people is ever going to really work,
And
you
even then,
know?
hey, and even then they had to replace one of them. All right,
Right.
so there it is.
Right. Exactly. Even in that group, they have to replace one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Ugh.
they get rid of one.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
So
it's
yeah,
fine.
I guess
That's
I'm
good.
just gonna be a doomer, and I guess I'm gonna lose. Okay. But you know what? Fuck it. I'll take the L, bro. You know,
Yeah.
I'll take my broken ass spine over here, and you know, and you know what? That's cool,
Hey, man.
because if I lose here, guess what, bros? I won already.
Hey,
You
look.
know.
Hey, look. If our corpses make it to the western, if our corpses make it to the Grey Havens, I'll take it.
Yeah. I'm
I'll
pretty
take
sure
it.
we will. I'm pretty sure we'll make
Hey,
it to the Great
hey.
Heavens.
Not bad. Not bad for a couple of retards with a
Right.
podcast. Am I right?
Exactly. All right, guys. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show.
That was good. That
Uh,
was really good. Thank you, everybody.
I'm going to post the notes. I'm going to take a picture of the notes.
Do
I'm
it.
going to post the notes because I think you'll
Do it.
enjoy my notes. I even did a drawing that's actually pretty cool.
Oh,
Um,
that's awesome.
no, it's actually retarded. It's embarrassing, but
It's
it's
fine.
funny.
Post
Um,
it, man. Whatever. We're all gonna lose anyway. What do you got to lose, right? Just do
yeah.
it. Just do
So
it.
thank you guys for joining us. I think this was a really good conversation. God,
Yeah.
I've noticed that we go through a cycle of like happy conversations and we're downers, and this is one of our more downer ones. For all you guys, thank you for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please like and subscribe to the Black Ibis Substack, and that way, like, we raise our numbers. Please also
Yes,
like
please.
and subscribe to the YouTube, because that also raises our profile. You don't have to do the paid option on Substack. I would love it if you do, and I would appreciate it and love it. And like I said, eventually we'll have a lot of paid only type stuff that I plan on doing, especially when I'm surgically have my neck chopped off if I don't die. Ugh, we'll see. And yeah, hopefully God willing not. But we're gonna get this episode edited, posted for everybody. Please like and share it. I really appreciate when you guys like share the episodes, because sometimes like the discovery element of Substack is just not really good. Like I'll see a post. Have you been getting this, Visto? Like I'll see a post. I saw one by Karis, by Karis Rides.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know I'm a subscriber. I know I follow her, and I cannot find the post. Like it doesn't show up in any of my feeds anymore. I had to like manually
Yeah.
type her. It's just like
The algorithm is I
horrible.
don't even know.
Like it's not showing me what I want to read. And even Charles Haywood's post that you shared, I had to I followed this dude for like years now since he's been on Substack, and like I could not find it until like you linked it, and it's like it's such a horrible system for some reason.
Yeah.
So please like and share, because if we get, this episode or any of the past episodes across people's eyes, we get more listeners, more conversation, more cool stuff. I do recommend you guys read Arturo Perez's Captain Alatriste stuff and his latest novel. It's very good. It's a very fun read. It's a great example. I once again will reiterate the challenge to everybody. If you're going to write us some historical fiction, guys. Let's see it. I want to see it. Like, write it and send it my way, and we'll talk about it here. It better be good though. I mean, it better not be crap because I'll shit on it.
We'll still buy it, but we'll shit on it
privately. Well, shit on it. Anyways. And I hope that if anybody that's a fan of Charles Haywood doesn't take my criticisms to heart. It's kind of like a brainstorming kind of conversation. I do respect the work he does. I think it's really good. It's mostly for we develop our ideas as we talk through them through our kind of dialectic way. So
like normal people.
Yeah, like normal people. And we'll see for us that are Christians, and specifically Orthodox Christians. Starting Sunday, we're going to go into the Great Lent, and I hope that we all have a good plan for our fasts and are ready for the long but ultimately joyous doomerism that is Lent. I think because we know the ending, guys. We know the ending, and the ending is a win, right?
Yep.
It's a time of reflection, but it's also the good ending. All right, guys. So thank you very much for tuning in, and good night, and God bless you guys. And we'll see you next week at the same time. Good night.
See you.